mics muted and cameras off while our presenter is talking. To turn on live captions in Microsoft Teams, navigate to your meeting controls and click on the three dots and then more options. Then click on Turn on Live Captions. To disable the feature, click on the More Options again and then select Turn off Live Captions. At the conclusion of this course, there will be a QR code that you will need to scan for credit. There will also be a link if you can't use the QR code. And now I would like to introduce your presenter today, Jennifer Ann Adair. Jen serves as the State of Ohio's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer in her role as Deputy Director of the Office of DEI within the Ohio Department of Administrative Services. The office's mission is to help state agencies embrace diversity and inclusion using equity as a tool to achieve justice in internal and external policy, practice, and procedures. Jen is a proud graduate of Columbus City Centennial High School, Northwestern University, and Capital University Law School. She is also honored to be a member and president of the Columbus Board of Education and to serve as the commissioner of the City of Columbus Recreation and Parks Department. I now turn it over to you, Jen.
Thank you, Jordan, and welcome everyone. So I have done a few things. There's a link in the chat for a shared document. So this is a management class, so you are all going to be practicing those skills I talked about in the morning session. And so part of the class will be me lecturing, and the other part will be you going to small breakout rooms to do some work with each other on using our new DEI competency and talking about how do we really link our individual objectives and goals that we're putting for our employees to our bigger DEI strategy. So that's what this class is focused on today. I have most of you assigned to rooms. That's what I was doing as Jordan was kind of doing the introduction. I have a few of you. When we get to that point, I'll need a minute to get about 6 of you into a room. So we will just go ahead and get started. I like to chat it up throughout. So I have my chat box up, and if you've been in class with me, you know I pay attention to the chat. If you have a question as we're going through, feel free to pop it in there, and I will try to answer it in real time. And Jordan can help out too if he sees a question. It's better for this type of class because, like I said, the last part of the class, you guys are going to be in breakout sessions, so you'll be working with one another. All right, so here's our objectives today. We're really going to talk about understanding and utilizing your team's DEI why. We're going to talk about and explore DEI competency, and then we're going to practice, right? So you guys are going to get into your small groups, and we're going to practice. If you were in the morning session, you already heard me talk about this. So this is something managers, you can steal from me, and you can use this. This is just a good way to level set your teams before you enter into any DEI space, whether that be a conversation, whether that even be a coaching session. When we're talking about these themes, they can be hard for people. Even things that you might not think are hard, others might think are hard to talk about. So if we just kind of come into these conversations understanding that we're all here to build awareness, that we're all building knowledge through learning and learning how to question, and then we have to all practice, and that's what part of what you're going to be doing today is practice. But the most important part is really having that right mindset in this space, right? That growth mindset, understanding that everyone's on their own journey, their own path, and we want everyone to kind of move through this in a pace that makes sense for them. And that's really important for you as managers, especially as we, get into things like talking about evaluations of people and how to, and when we coach them through these kind of scenarios. I want to go ahead and put a plug in for our Office of Talent Management, who really does this stuff. And so if you have more logistical or more content related questions around evaluation, around coaching, they really have a lot of amazing resources that you can tap into. And I put some of those links in the course description, but there's a ton more out there. So if you feel like, we've gone through this and you need a more hands-on or more information about that side, please reach out to them, look at the website, and if you need help connecting, just contact me and I'll connect you. So this class is really, we're going to focus on that kind of the DEI lens over the evaluation process. Okay, so let's first talk about the DEIY and what that means. I already showed you this in the first session if you were there. So this is really important, managers. Okay, so this is our common language. Part of that equity agenda that we talked about in the opening session that the governor has asked us to work on, one of the key pieces that he's asked us to do is establish this common language around DEI. And so that means that you actually need to know and understand these definitions. This isn't the class to do that, but if you feel like, again, you need more work, I need you to go on your DEI journey, get the things you need so that you are able to help us as the management team really promote these things, because this is what is part of your agency's strategic plans. And this is part of, for my cabinet agencies, the equity agenda that the Director Madden talked about, those commitments that your agency has made. So diversity, inclusion, right? Human variety, including that variety into our strategic mission. You as managers can do that. Finding that variety of your employees, being able to leverage it in a way that helps you do your jobs better, okay? When we talk about operationalizing DEI, that is what we are talking about. Equality, equity, right? So we all want equality. That's why we're here. We want a system that's fair, both internally and externally. We know that it's not because we see data. We know, right? We know we have disparities in a variety of places. Equity is that process in trying to figure out why the disparity is and then moving our resources around in a way to fix it so that we can get to this idea of equality, okay? Justice and institutional bias. So big picture. This is really touching our public service side, the work you do every day, those big projects that you're working on. The governor has asked us to make sure that we are really looking at the way we do our work to eliminate institutional bias, to really promote this idea of justice, this idea of fairness really in our systems. That's what justice is. You are part of that. The way that you manage your teams, the projects that you do, all of that is essential to how we get there and how we do that, and what the governor has asked us to do. So again, this is just that same depiction I showed you before. You're going to keep seeing it over and over again because, sometimes people need a picture. And so really what we're focused on is this idea of the outcome of equity is equality, right? So see the equality here. Everyone can see over the fence, and we've adjusted our resources to get that to that outcome. And then the bigger question, why is there a fence? And that's what you as management need to be asking yourself. That is how you start your DEI kind of questioning. We want to make sure that we're doing these things, but that idea, this bigger picture, this is what the governor's asking us to do as the leaders, okay? You saw this before too in the other managers. This right here, trust, inclusion, value, civility, respect, this connection between our people and the missions of our agencies, of our government, of the work of your individual unit, division, office, all you. Now, everyone has a role and responsibility in this idea of promoting an excellent work culture. Everyone has a responsibility. But you are the leaders of that in your management teams and who you manage. And so, this idea of trust, inclusion, value, civility, and respect, we have to have this in order to really embrace the variety and strategically include the variety, to operationalize it, to then get to this idea of innovation, which is where we really get to that space where we can find those hidden barriers and bias and start to change systems. And that's that outcome that the governor's asking us. How do we serve Ohio to make sure everyone has opportunity? We are seeking justice, and all of our public service is equitable. So you are critical. All right. So now that we're level set on this idea of why we're doing this, and again, if you need more, there's of course more. You can come, we have a bunch of other classes, right? So again, I encourage you to continue your journey. If something that I said in the last 5-6 minutes sparked your attention and you were like, I don't know a lot about that, I guarantee you we have a class, maybe even one today that you're taking. And so it's really important that you understand why we are doing this as a state and why you as management teams are critical to that. Okay, let's talk about goal setting. All right, so there's this idea of cascading goals, and I have another definition we'll get to in a different slide that our Office of Talent Management uses. But if you look it up in the dictionary, this is that definition: a process whereby something, typically information or knowledge, is successively passed on. That should make sense to you, right? So it's that idea that we have a state of Ohio mission, and that is the purpose of government, to serve the public and all sorts of other reasons why government exists. But we have this mission as a whole state. And because government is broken down then into agencies based on subject matter or project or theme or whatever, we then have a subset of that mission. But see, all of us together are working towards that mission. So, right, succession, next level down. And that continues. So in your agencies, however you're broken down, if you're a large agency, you might have multiple layers. If you're a smaller agency, you might have fewer. But we have divisions or offices or goal or teams, or however the breakdown is. Each one of those then has individual pieces or projects they are working on that then ties up, right? And then foundationally, that starts with our employees. They are part of it, right? And they have to be able to articulate, how are they part of the mission? How are they part of the thing that they do, the thing that we hire them to do every day? How is it helping your team, your unit, your division, your agency, and the state of Ohio meet its goals? So that's the idea of a cascade, okay? And we're going to talk a little more about that when we look at the DEI competency. But if that seems if you've never heard that before, or you haven't thought about it that way, just think about it. And then I want you to think about the strategic mission you have, the one that you are managing, and how does that tie up? And if you are having a difficult time articulating how it does, then you should have some conversations with your upper management, because you want to make sure that we're all aligned, right? That we are all going in the same direction, that we are all strategically moving. And that's part of the job as management. Let's talk about leveraging our diversity. So you've heard me say that a couple times. If you watched the opening session, you heard me in the video say that employees are our greatest asset. They are. And if done correctly, we can actually get more out of them than the job we pay them to do. We can leverage those extra pieces that they bring to work with them every day, that are probably actually greater assets to us than sometimes the job they do, because they can help us solve a problem only that their unique lens can see. And that helps us find those institutional biases and barriers. That helps us find where we might be missing a gap, because we don't have the lens, right? And that's why this idea of including everyone and creating space and hearing people and listening and providing those opportunities for people to engage are so important. So we can think about our employees in a lot of different ways. And if you are going to take, it might actually be happening now, but if watch the recording, the Dimensions of Diversity class, where Bobby Bell Bartholomew is going to dig deeper into the rings of diversity, right? So there's demographics in that, and there's a lot of that EEO demographics, and that's something that a lot of us trigger on. But we know those are important aspects of who we are. So we know that looking at people's demographics in terms of gender, race, age, ability, all those things that we are counting, right? Those can be important ways to look at people. Another way, and I'm going to promo DISC, We have a DISC class. Some of you might be taking that a little bit later this afternoon about how do we leverage DISC. This comes down to our personalities. The way that we interact with problems, the way we interact with each other. That is actually a fabulous leveraging point. So I'm not going to go into a ton of that now, but if you're going to take that class, or if you're not, you can watch the video later. This is a great leveraging point, and we are really encouraging everyone to be taking DISC so that we all have a common language around this aspect. And Deborah has said that Lead Ohio is offering aligning organizational strategies and competencies and cascading goals. So if you need more on this, Deborah leads our talent management team, and she can continue to pop in. Thank you, Deborah. Pop in more resources for our managers so that they know where to find them. Problem solving. This is part of DISC, but part of other kinds of personality assessments. The way people approach problems, if you understand how they do that, these are great leveraging points too, especially if you've got different kinds of problems, right? Sometimes we have personality problems, sometimes we have tactile problems, sometimes we have strategy problems, sometimes we have interpersonal problems. And so if you know how best people work and approach problems, it's also a great leveraging point. General experience and culture, which is something that you probably won't know unless you have a psychologically safe work environment where people feel comfortable sharing these things. This idea that, we obviously are more than the 8 hours of work we're supposed to do in the day, things outside that make us who we are. These things can really leverage what we are doing day to day. So for example, I'm a foster parent. If I worked at JFS, that could be valuable information. It might be valuable information for DAS. I don't know. But my experiences in that system and being in that, could provide a different lens. And so this idea that we have so much more experience that we are not tapping into that might help us is really important. And that idea of culture. Some of you might be taking some of our culture classes. Culture is super broad. The definition of culture is broad, right? And so that is, again, a lot of who we are, who we associate with, the groups that we connect with. And this is a different lens, right? We all have a different type of culture. Values. And you might say that's a funny one. So values are really kind of important. And I don't mean just like, what do we believe? What is a good person? I mean, like, why do we come to work? What's our value in work? And that's different for different people. And if you can understand that and tap into that, and through your coaching kind of understand why it is they're here, what are they looking for, you can actually leverage it so that you are setting it up for better success for your group, right? Because you're tapping people into what they're passionate about, the things they value the most, and you're going to get better results from them. These are all layers of diversity that you might not have thought about before, okay? And so again, we are deeper than those first initial rings of diversity that you might think about in terms of race or demographics. In fact, it's probably the latter three that are more important to the way that you manage your team. We are all striving for the same common goals, shared values, and we are mission driven. And if your staff cannot connect, you can't leverage anything. So that's step one, is this idea that you have to be able to communicate what it is you're doing and the why behind what you're doing, and then connecting it to DEI, right? DEI is a lens over our normal work. It's not a separate thing. It's something we infuse as a reason for doing the things that we do as well. They go side by side with your work. All right, let's talk a little bit about creating goals and measuring and evaluating. This is really quick because if you, again, Office of Talent Management, if you need more resources on this, they are the experts in this, okay? So here's that cascading goal again, and this is their definition. It's a process of translating goals from one level of the organization to the next to ensure alignment between the organization's strategy and individual employees' activities and goals, right? So just like I said with the, Jordan, can you find who's unmuted, please? It's just what I said with that definition of from the dictionary. This just ties it even more directly. So organizational goals into employee goals, right? And so when we think about that in a DEI context, I told you that our big state goal is equity and justice. That's the thing the governor has really asked us to look at, right? So each agency has a strategic plan. And if you haven't seen your strategic plan, you can ask your DEI professionals, typically your EO officer, your head of HR, depending on how big your agency is. You can call HR to see what that plan is. Hopefully they are publishing it because they're beautiful, and hopefully they're on some internal website and you already know where it is. But you can see that your agency is working on strategies to address both internal and external equity. And there's a variety of things they're doing, okay? So what do we do? So then the next level down, depending on, again, how big your agency is and how many levels you have, you're going to decide, and hopefully there's been conversations about what pieces of those you're going to support based on the work that you do. Okay, so you're not going to do all of them. That won't make sense, but you're going to do ones that make sense for your business mission, okay? So for example, this is an example. Maybe as part of your business mission, you actually need to work on figuring out, do we have institutional bias? Is that in our systems? Is that in the way that we work or process or do something? So that's going to be your kind of division or your bigger goal. Now, say you have another layer down. Maybe you need to think about that. Do we have institutional bias in our internal? That would be our work culture. So maybe we got to do some work culture assessments. Maybe we're having some morale problems, or maybe we need to look at it in terms of our public service. Maybe we have a goal to look at making sure that our employees are doing culturally competent service. We don't think we have any disparity, but we're going to check into that to make sure that maybe they process applications or something like that, right? We're going to look at that. So again, we're supporting the mission of the state, equity and justice. We're supporting our internal equity of our agency. We're looking at our division goal of institutional bias. And then again, one more layer down. This is how we're going to do it. We're going to look at either our people, we're going to look at our public service, and then we got to put it down into our employees, and we got to write it in a way that makes sense for them. And so we are going to help them in some aspects. So always the first place is knowledge. So how do we build knowledge? And so that might be something that we want our employees to do. This also, supports the competency, which I'll show you in a minute as well. So knowledge building is always a good one. You could do things like having them work on certain aspects of their job and doing mini equity reviews if you wanted to. So there's things that individual employees can contribute to this bigger question, right? And so that's what we're going to be working on today, this idea of how do we cascade DEI down and make it understandable in a way and connecting to a way for our employees. As you create goals, it's really important that we are obviously supporting the objective of our mission and our equity goals. That's the cascade, right? So if you're giving an employee a goal, you need to understand why that is. And actually that helps our employee. Nobody likes goals where they're like, why the heck am I doing that? That makes no sense, right? It seems like a waste of time. That's not what we want. Goals should be SMART, or our talent management team says another way to think about this is if you write it as do X in order to the reason by a date, right? And so, it kind of gives you this sense of it's very clear and understandable about why we're doing things. And most of you, I think, know what SMART is. It's very specific, it's immeasurable, it's attainable. It's reasonable, and it's a targeted goal, right? So just like what talent management says, do, in order to, and by. And so they even shortened it for you. Again, need more resources. You can get help from the Office of Talent Management. And then making the goals meaningful to the individual. So that again takes into part of their values. So for me personally, when I sit down with my team, I always have a section around their professional development, and it's things I talk to them about, and I say, what is it you want to do? Making it meaningful. I mean, there's a lot of things they need to do to help meet our mission, but I want something that's really super meaningful for them. You know, what's a stretch goal for you? What's something that you want to do that's still going to contribute, right? I want to research a new topic to bring to the state as a class, or I want to work on, you know, better understanding strategic planning so that I can explain it to my agencies. That might not be something that I had assigned them, but that's something they know they need, right? So making goals really meaningful to the individual that still tie into the space, right? Thinking about measurement. So we just talked about SMART measurement. We talked about the by, right? By a certain time or date. That's super important. Now we know we have measuring because we need to be accountable. That's there, you know, you're making them accountable, but you're also being accountable up, right? Because this demonstrates how you, the manager, are meeting your goals too, right? Because part of your job as a manager is to delegate down and understand what you're delegating and why you're delegating in order to make a bigger meet the next level mission, right? And so it's holding you accountable. So holding them accountable, holding you accountable, holding your team accountable to one another, and then also being able to track. Measurements can be qualitative or quantitative. So what does that mean? They can be very hard and fast around data or numbers, or they can be a little bit more, I call it squishy. So they can be like measuring thoughts or opinions or feelings. So if, for example, you are maybe measuring customer service, or you're working on that cultural responsiveness, and so you're doing some customer satisfaction surveys, right? That is going to be qualitative data, right? Measuring people's feelings and things of that nature. So they can be both, and both are acceptable. But we definitely want to outline what is the measurement, what is the thing that we are looking for. And again, if you need more help, I'm going to keep saying it. Office of Talent and Management can really help dig into this if this is a space that you need help. Make them easy to understand. Baby steps. If you're one of my DEI team members, you hear me say it all the time. Baby steps, baby steps, baby steps. We cannot do a big goal if we haven't laid a foundation. So perhaps we need to lay foundations with individual employees to get them started on bigger goals in the next cycle, right? Or we start with goals first, like maybe with your timelines, you do first quarter, second quarter, whatever you want to do. But we're going to go baby steps. And then that again helps them understand, helps tie to the bigger goal. It holds them accountable, and you're not overloading. You're not jumping too far ahead. Okay. And so taking those baby steps, also taking the baby steps one layer up as your division unit goals. Think about how you are cascading it down and the pieces that you need to get done in a way that doesn't overwhelm your team or scare them. And in the exercise, we'll see that in a little bit. I'm sure some of you are going to write a goal, and I will say, did you just scare your employee? Because you're going to write something that's like really big, and you're like, and if you think about it, an individual employee, they would be like, oh no, I can't do that. That's too big, right? And you're gonna say, you're right, that's too big. That's actually a unit or division goal. So thinking about it, it's easy to understand, baby steps. All right. So here's some DEI tips around the evaluation process. So this is specifically when you got the goals written and it's time for you to pull that back out at the end of the cycle and figure out what you're going to write. All right. And again, Office of Talent Management has so much information here. But here's my DEI tips, my EEO tips too. Stay factual, right? So through the process, you definitely want to gather information about your employees' performance. You should be doing regular touch bases and coaching sessions. But if you have poor performance, or even you have kudos, try to gather it and have it in a factual way. Don't go off your own feelings, and don't write things like I feel. You can write things like, I received a glowing client, evaluation or something for this person, right? So you're showing that you've gotten documentation. These are factual things that they could feel all they want, but you as the manager, you want to not really have feelings in this space. You can say things like, this employee is doing an outstanding job based on their performance. Again, not feelings, that's factual. Why do I say that? Because once you start to insert feelings and you start to insert your own values, sometimes our employees can take that the wrong way, or you might accidentally trip into situations of HR or EEO issues, and you don't mean it at all, right? And so we just have to kind of be careful in the way that we are writing. Make sure you are checking your assumptions, your stereotypes and bias, and check your blind spots. We all have things to work on. And especially if you have an employee maybe that you have had, a little trouble with, try to make sure you are still looking at them with that same sort of lens that you are evaluating everyone on, right? Don't let those kind of feelings that you might have make you treat them differently. Again, EEO related. You don't mean to, it's human, but again, try to come in, and that's why I'm saying stay factual. If you have it on paper, it's right there, right? So make sure you're checking your assumptions, blind spots, and bias. Oh, I'm getting a bad network quality. I know someone will yell at me to let me know if I freeze. Okay. Make sure that you're providing thoughtful, relevant, and honest feedback. Hi, managers. We've all been in that situation where we have an employee that we have not done this with, and we've actually said they're doing fine because we want to be nice. So that is not honest. And in the end, that hurts everybody. Okay. You can provide feedback that is constructive, that is helpful to them, and still give an honest evaluation, even if they are a poor performer. And Office of Talent Management can help you. But it does no good to fudge it or to feel like I don't want to be mean. It does no good when you get in those coaching sessions to not tell them the truth. In the end, it hurts you, it hurts everyone else on the team, and it hurts your productivity, right? And then this is where we start to talk about work culture problems. And so making sure that we're thoughtful, relevant, honest in those evaluations and what we are writing. Take time. I know it's annoying. I'm not going to lie. I don't relish the evaluation time period, right? But it's so important and so critical and so important to our employees. All right, coaching and feedback. So this is the definition from Office of Talent Management around what is coaching in the state. A participative development process between the employee and the supervisor with the aim of providing targeted guidance and achieving measurable improvement towards a stated goal, objective, or performance issue, right? So what does that mean? We're having collaborative dialogue, right? So between the employee and supervisor, it's a development process. So we're trying to help the employee be better, right, in some aspect, because we are all trying to achieve a goal, objective, or performance, or fix a performance issue. And so again, you're going to go in there with some, agenda, something to talk about, and you're going to level set the employee, and you're going to have a really productive conversation with them. These sessions on putting a DEI lens in are individualized because everyone is different and needs something different. And this is style all over the place too, right? So understanding that you can't coach everybody the same. And so this is why it's so important that you work on understanding DISC and you work on understanding your styles. And then you understand when your employees come to you what their styles are. Just as in the definition, having specific examples for improvement or examples of positives or examples, very specific, right, for employees, that makes the coaching session better. That also, again, with my EEO hat on, helps you stay focused and aligned with what the goal of that session was, and not accidentally trip into other areas that could cause problems. Remember to always promote that growth mindset and, make those spaces psychologically safe. And, you can even say, you know what, if I say something that makes you feel uncomfortable, I don't mean to at all, I need you to let me know, because I'm really here to help you as your manager. And I know that I have bias, and sometimes I say things, and that obviously is not the intent. I want this to be super productive. We're both learning in this space, right? So being open and creating that safe space for them.
Hey, Jen, sorry to interrupt. The voice is a little bit glitchy. I was wondering if maybe you want to turn off your camera to get better audio quality.
Okay, I will try that.
It's not bad. It's legible, but.
Okay. All right, we'll see if that's better. All right. We have a few more, and you're going to go to breakout rooms anyhow, so I will stop talking then. All right, so how do you prepare yourself for these conversations? Because, again, this might be really uncomfortable for you, and so work on you. So again, understand your bias, understand your styles. It's so important. Know what your next move is. And that means that if you are, especially if you're going to have a really tough conversation, then maybe think about, where's my support after this? Do I need to make sure I have my HR team kind of on standby? Do I have a manager I need to have kind of on standby going up? Or do I know that this employee is going to take this in a very emotional way? And we're doing this in person, do I have tissues, right? Or if we're doing this virtual, do I have a way to calm the person down? What is my next move, right? So thinking ahead can especially if you're an S&C, can kind of prepare you to get ready. Prepare an agenda. And again, I don't mean a formal agenda, and I said this a few times, but know when you sit down with someone what your goal and what the outcome of the conversation is. Whether that be the coaching session, the evaluation, whatever it is. I mean, as the manager, when we sit down in these formalized settings with our employees, it's for a purpose. And so making sure that you're hitting that purpose is really important. And then debrief, especially if it's a tough conversation. If you have a circle of other managers, talk and support each other. Talk to your HR, talk to your DEI staff person. You can call me. I mean, just make sure that you feel like you're being taken care of too. And so it's really important that you take a minute to debrief, especially if it was something that was really challenging or hard to go through. Because again, you're human, and nobody likes to give bad news, especially if it's bad news. Nobody likes to hurt people, even if it's unintentional. And so, these things can be challenging and hard. So take care of yourself. All right. So that's all the pre-stuff on measurement and how do we kind of think through. Now let's look at the competency before we head into our breakout rooms. So our DEI competency, first of all, I need to, again, thank the Office of Talent Management for working with us on this. We are all so excited about this competency. This is something the governor is asking our agencies to use in this cycle right now. It is part of the statewide requirements. I know a few agencies I don't know why, but don't do the requirements. So if you're one of those, you know who you are, but you should still put it in, even if you're not required. So this is what it says. Displaying and developing understanding of individual differences and viewpoints and the impact of each on the workplace and how we serve others. So that is the competency. What is a competency? Okay. So a competency and goal are a little bit different. A competency is this idea that we have this knowledge, skills, and abilities that require us to do a job. The baseline for the jobs we do. These are things that are just intrinsic in how we do the work, okay? It's not really associated with a particular goal itself. It's just about how we do it. And so what this means is that we are saying DEI is actually an intrinsic part of everyone's job. And so this competency looks at it under that light. So this ability to understand that there are individual viewpoints and differences, and those impact our workplace or our work culture, and then the way that we serve, right? So we have two definitions that are very close to that common language that we use, but are obviously more tied to the evaluation process. So again, you see diversity is a human variety of experiences, identities, and perspectives that our employees bring to state employment. So we are recognizing our employees and their valuable diversity. That is the point of this definition. And inclusion is the practice of understanding and applying diversity to improve work culture and influence the way we serve Ohio. This is the strategic inclusion that I was talking about. So we've defined it a little bit deeper in this competency and tied it more directly to our employment. So these are the two definitions. They are the same really as what I said earlier. They just kind of put a little bit more words around it for the employment setting. All right, so this is it. That's the competency. So every employee, no matter what you do, should be able to display and develop understanding about individual differences and viewpoints and the impact of how it impacts the workplace or our work cultures, and then how we serve. All right. So how do we do that? Well, so we have these different job levels, and if you do these evaluations, you know this. This is not. This is just the way that our systems is set up. So you are either a supervisor or manager, and you supervise either individual contributors or administrative staff, right? And so this becomes important. I just wanted to show you this because of the exercise we're about to do. So we are going to be developing goals for an individual contributor. So someone that is assigned a specific function or program. So most of our employees, I believe, and Deborah can correct me, I believe fall in this individual contributor category. And so each one of our competencies have behavioral anchors for each of these levels. And so you actually, if you're curious, have behavioral anchors around DEI for your supervisor or manager level. One thing that I'm really excited about is that we actually have created a level for executive leaders or directors. If our governor wanted to use it, it is created. That will show him what it means to be a DEI leader at that level too. So these are the job levels. In our exercise, we're going to be focused on this individual contributor. Here's the behavioral anchors. Now, don't get scared by these. Now, so this is the format for every single competency we have in the state of Ohio. And again, you'll see individual contributor because that's the one we're going to be working on. The format of the way this works is if you really start with the middle column of meets expectation, each bullet point is an example. It's not something everyone has to do every single one. These are just examples to you about things that if your employee is doing them, can show that they are meeting the goal. So if you start with the meets column, you'll see that each bullet point then goes from side to side, and the first bullet point will correspond to the first bullet point on the exceeds or the does not meet. Okay. So this can really be broken down. I'm not going to read all these to you in a few big categories. So if your employees can demonstrate through their behavior that they are supporting the organizational goals around DEI, that helps meet this competency. If they are helping to work or show behaviors that demonstrate they want to work on improving your work culture, that meets the competency. If they are working on providing culturally competent or having more awareness in their customer service, that meets the competency. If they are working on interpersonal relationships with their team members, and working on aspects of like working through differences, this meets the competency, this type of behavior. And these are things that you can just kind of see. If obviously if you're together, it's harder sometimes on virtual, but you can witness these things. And then problem solving. Are they using or are they kind of showing and demonstrating behavior in the way that they're working through problems with each other, with themselves, around this idea using kind of DEI concepts. So all of these fall into one of these 5 kind of themes, and these are examples, okay? These themes that I pulled out should actually not look different to you. they actually fit in to a lot of the other competencies that you probably are using. Look at customer service, for example. That is the other statewide competency. So if you think about it, DEI and this new competency is not new. What it is adding an additional lens or layer, a different way of looking at competencies you might already have established and are using. So for example, if you are working on customer service and all of your team members have a listed competency of we're going to provide great customer service, we're going to be friendly, we're going to be all those great things. The next logical step is turn the page and write in the DEI competency. And we are going to also work on providing culturally competent public service and understanding what that means and having those values, right? And so you're going to be looking for ways that employees are going to be working on that. So it aligns with work you're doing. It aligns with work to improve your mission. It aligns, it cascades. And so you should pick competencies and ideas and behaviors that support the other things that are in the evaluation. If you need more work on that, again, about how to work through the behavioral anchors, about the competencies, there's so many of them. You can choose Office and Talent Management. They have a great, and maybe Deborah can throw the website link in the chat. There's so many resources on the website for you to take a peek at to kind of help you through, and of course they are there to help you as well. So this is not scary, and even though it's new, it's not really new. If you think about it in terms of, look at what I already wrote, or look at a competency I already have, and then how do I add a DEI lens over it? How is my employee exhibiting the behaviors around one of these ideas of supporting goals, improving work culture, customer service, interpersonal relationships, or solving problems? So this makes it a little bit more understandable, right? Okay. Are you guys ready? All right, so this is what we're going to do. You are going to practice. And so what we're going to do is we're going to head into small breakout rooms. I still have a few of you to add in to rooms, so we'll do that in a minute. But let me explain what we're going to be doing. So I put a link in the chat. I'll put it in again, just in case sometimes people who come in. Oh, Jordan put it back. Oh, no, that was from before. I don't know what's happening. Okay, I'll put it in again. All right, so here it is again. And so I'm going to pull the share document over. So I see some of you coming in. All right, so you don't know what room you're in yet. So don't just, I'm just going to show you the document before you head over there, and then we'll talk about what you're going to do. So this is the share document. Now, in reality, only one of you in your room needs to be able to have this up and share your screen. So when you get to the room, pick a recorder. So that's going to be someone that types, and pick a reporter. And that's someone who's going to give a very quick kind of touch base when we come back. Okay. You're going to be assigned a fact pattern. So even number of rooms will have fact pattern 1. Odd number of rooms will have fact pattern 2. When you get down into your rooms, what you're going to do is you're going to write a goal that supports the fact pattern and your agency's kind of your department, your agency, what you're supposed to be doing. It'll make more sense when you read it. It's a cascading. So you're going to get information. The fact pattern talks about what your department's doing, what your office is doing, and you're going to get a little information about what does your employee do or some situations. Then you're going to create an individual goal or goals. I'm looking for one, but you can sometimes people put a few. And then you're going to talk about the measurement. So, how do I know what it is going to get done? And you can, again, use that more simplified method of, the do and the, the buy and all of that, right? And then this is just, I want to know why. What's the link to the cascade? Why did you assign this, right? So how are we thinking about, how does this help us with our bigger mission? This is not an exercise about writing the perfect goal. In fact, you don't even need to write a sentence if you don't want to. You can write bullets. This is about understanding the cascade. If you need help in working on writing goals, again, Office of Talent Management is the best resource for that, okay? All right, so I'm going to put this aside. And again, I'm going to show you one more time what you're doing. So pick a recorder and a reporter when you get into your groups. Create a SMART goals that support the facts in the DEI pattern, right? In the fact pattern, and support what it says. Explain how accomplishing the goal will advance DEI for your area or your fake agency in your fact pattern. All right. So you're going to go to your rooms and you're going to assign a recorder and a reporter. Jordan, can you give me a time? What time is this class on today? I should know that. Like, I should really know that.
We are ending at 10:20.
Okay, so we are going to be in our rooms. I'm going to give you some time. We'll stay in there until about 10, and then we are going to come back and do report out. We have several rooms, so it will take. They're still going to be quick, but I know we'll still take the full 20 minutes when we come back. Okay, if you need something, all you have to do in your little room chat is to type @ and my name and say, I need you, and I can pop into your room, okay? Or you can chat me and I can write to you in your chat. So feel free if you get stuck, let me know. Again, this isn't about writing the goal, so you don't need the perfect goal. That's not what this is about. This is about your thought process and how are we connecting what is our agency's DEI kind of mission to an individual worker, okay? An individual staff member. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open rooms. And if you need to take a quick coffee break or grab something, feel free as I'm moving you into rooms. Try to get started back by 9:35. And I have a few people that I need to assign. So some of you won't quite move. I have a few. So I'm going to open rooms. Those of you that will move, go ahead, take a few minutes to your break and then get started by 9:35. And I'm going to bring you back by 10. So I just hit the open the room button. So some of you will be moving, and I'm going to be assigning those that I didn't get. Okay, I just hit the button for those. I missed one. I see I missed one person, so I'll get you as soon as everyone else moves. Hi, everyone. As you're starting to come back to the main room, good job in your breakouts. You have some really great stuff on paper. You guys are all coming back to the main room now. Go ahead and get yourselves back on mute for me. Put yourselves back on mute. Thank you for working really hard. There's some great stuff here. We are going to go ahead and start the report out. It's not meant to be super hard. So basically the goal is to just talk about what the goal, what you put down on paper. And really we're focused more on that relevance. Like we want to see the cascade. How are you addressing the cascade? Okay. So we're going to start with our even number rooms. The fact pattern that you were doing. Your department is working on advancing equity in public service. Your team administers program ABC that works with population Q, specifically taking and evaluating applications for services. Your team has been asked to review internal practice and procedures for inequity. You are writing goals for one of the team members who reviews the application and makes a recommendation to a supervisor. This individual is a member of population Q. All right, so we're going to go in pretty rapid succession here. We're going to talk to all of our even number rooms and hear what you wrote down and really focusing on that relevance piece. Okay, room 2, orange room. Who's my reporter?
I can be. I'm Caroline.
Hi, thank you.
So what we came up with is we're going to work with other team members as a group to eliminate the biases that may be associated with screening the application. So we came up with a method to make sure that we alternate screeners to review different parts of the application and then meet to discuss the candidates. And what we are going to do is just take out the information, and only certain information will be provided. So we're taking out names and addresses and things like that to eliminate those biases, and then come together so we won't have, making a decision just based on somebody's name or their address or something like that.
I love that idea. So infusing kind of a blind screening, and we've talked about that on the HR side. Let me ask you, or let me point out, so this goal, if I gave this to an employee, would they get scared? Does this tell them like specifically what they're doing? Or is this kind of more of a unit or division goal? I'm going to argue it's the latter. So this is an amazing goal, by the way. Amazing. I love it. It's a complete equity review look. So thinking a little bit more narrowly about what would we have that team member do? And maybe it is participate in the group discussion or something like that, right? So think about it a little bit more narrow when we get down to that individual level. This is a fabulous unit type of goal, okay? All right, good job, room 2. I love that goal. All right, green room 4.
So what we would do is we would have the employee identify 3 to 5 areas where improvements may be needed. The way we would measure it is by if he actually provided the 3 to 5 ways, and then the relevance would be just to establish equity among the population. Since that person's in that population, we definitely think it's important to hear their side and see kind of where we might not be thinking about some of the issues they might face.
Yeah, so what I hear you saying is you're trying to tap into that employee's perspective about maybe finding inequity, right? So, and I also like that you want to get them involved in the process of picking. Okay, but it's not specific, right? So we were trying to remember to work on specific goals. But I love where I hear you going. So good job, room 4. All right, room 6, purple room.
Okay, hi. All right, so at room 6, what we basically talked about is that person's goal would be to ensure an equitable process. And we know there's going to be several steps in getting that going. One of those steps, of course, is evaluating the form for any issues that it may have that causes confusion or creates barriers, right? As a measurement, we thought that a written analysis that addresses any issues that we find in the form and recommendations for resolving those issues. And then the relevance is basically to ensure equitable access to the programs. right? Ensure there aren't any obstacles in taking advantage of the program. So, and that of course that the program is going to be designed so it works for that population.
Yeah, I love this too. So basically what you are suggesting is an equity review on the form itself. So that's an excellent idea. Again, though, I think one level a little bit high, that would be like your unit goal. So what would an employee do? Maybe theirs is to help with this process. Over the course of 3 months, they're going to track where they feel people are tripping up, or you're going to have them collect data, right, on certain questions or something like that. So it's more specific to what they're doing, but they're helping do the equity review of the form, right? So thinking about it a little bit narrow, but you're right on target though about why we're doing it. So great job. This is a fabulous idea. I mean, all of you could steal this one right now. I love that idea about equity reviews on forms. So good job, Purple Room. Oh, I'm stuck. Black Room, you are next, and some reason I can't scroll. So it's you want to go ahead, Black Room? I know you were having trouble, look like with the form, but I'm sure you got something to
Oh, we
report.
did, Jen. We were talking about it more than we did type. But it's we like everyone else, we had to have some discussion really about from the fact pattern and thinking about what you said about cascading goals. We kind of looked at what was the issue we wanted to do, right? Which was to kind of make sure we were equitably getting out, serving the population that we were supposed to. And then for that, we kind of looked at the way we said blind screen would be a good kind of a goal for us broadly. And then for the actual individual goal, we said get the applications reviewed in X number of days, because we didn't want somebody to potentially sit on an application and not because they thought that maybe that's not who they wanted to serve. And so the goal was, well, the measurement would be we'd be able to evaluate at the next review whether we're now serving more broadly than we did previously. And we thought the relevance was that if we did it in these number of days, it would help limit potential implicit biases by having someone, by using a blind screening process and with a goal of applications done in X number of days, whether 3, 5, or whatever is appropriate, then someone wouldn't be able to sit on an application because they, so the measurement was really to the individual was a smarter, tighter goal that cascaded up to our overall goal. But yeah, a lot of discussion.
Yeah, that's okay. And so far yours is probably the best in terms of that, like what you did, that narrower scope and the cascading. So that's excellent. And I like how you got all of you kind of focused on a different area of equity, which is also amazing. You were looking more about that implicit bias that the reviewer might have, how maybe that's part of our problem. Here's the thing in equity reviews in this space. We don't know where the problem is, right? A lot of times it's hidden a lot of times. And so we might, as the managers in our unit goals, we might need to try a few things to figure out, is this having impact? Is this really what the problem is? So all of you approached it a different way, which is amazing. Because all of these solutions could work, or none of them could work, or a combination of them could work to solve kind of what the bigger issue is. So that's a great example of how you each were kind of picking something out to look at under that equity lens. So that's excellent. So good job, room 8, Black Room. Let's go to the other fact pattern now. So even room was focused more on our external, our odd rooms are focused on our internal. So your department is working on creating more inclusive work culture. Your team of 25 people share many of the same dimensions of diversity. Over the past year, there have also been issues of incivility, including 1 EEO case and 2 individuals resigned for different opportunities, which you consider regretted losses, which means you didn't want them to go. You plan on hiring soon. You're writing goals for a member of your team who has expressed an interest in joining the agency DEI committee and is an I in the DISC profile. Okay, let's go ahead and head to room 1, red room. Who's reporting out here?
All right, this is Tony. I'm reporting out. So we approached it assuming that that this person wants to be involved for specific reasons, and having no background on the person, we're assuming they have not trained on DEI. So our individual goal was attend DEI training that supports the organizational goals, such as intro to DEI, microaggressions, and bias, in order to recognize personal biases. We are given a 3-month intro training program. We want to give them 3 months to learn, and then to come back and share what they learned. And these are measurements, to share what they learned with the team at our next group or team meeting. And then relevance wise, the sharing of learning experience, we're hoping it opens the lines of communication and builds the team dynamic, and then it gains DEI buy-in towards the organization's goal.
Yeah, great job, Red Room. So you're saying, we know we have someone that has an interest, so we're going to cultivate that interest. We're going to make sure that they're aligned with what we're doing, get them training, and then we're going to infuse them, because they're an I, right, into kind of the way that we work in our team, and have them kind of help influence others. So that's a great way to kind of leverage their diversity, but making sure they are trained in the way that, we want to share this common knowledge. So I think that that's great. And this looks pretty tight in terms of you got your timelines and everything. So good job, Red Room. Let's move to the Yellow Room, Room 3. Who's reporting out? Come on, Yellow Room. Yellow! Who's in yellow?
All right, I'll do it.
Thank you.
This is Sharon. We went along the same kind of pathway that Room 1 did. Basically, if we've got somebody who's interested in being a part of this committee, we want them to be a part of the committee. And so we want them to update the team, just basically to inform the team as to what's going on with the committee, any trainings that might be available to them, any of the initiatives of the committee. Measurable, we'd like this person to report back to us maybe monthly. It would be, the frequency would actually depend on how often the DEI meetings took place. And it goes back to informing, the relevance is to keep the team informed about DEI activities, to kind of help to lay that foundation that you spoke about earlier, to infuse DEI into the team culture. Another one is that we thought maybe this person would be great to serve as a facilitator for difficult team conversations. What a measurable would be to attend training to learn to facilitate or mediate. And I think that would help. The relevance would be to prompt individuals in your team to begin their own DEI journey. It's again that whole idea of infusing that into the culture, laying the foundation. Also, this person could initiate team conversations on DEI topics. Conversations could be held at team meetings, and the engagement of the audience could be determined by surveys. How engaged are you getting the team on these conversations? And again, this establishes DEI as a foundation for new hires. If you see that you maybe have some problems, or maybe not a great understanding of DEI concepts in your current team, you're going to bring in new people, and they might be absorbed by that culture. What you want for that new person is to come into a healthier culture, and one that is more inclusive.
Yeah, I love that. So that last point you just said, when we talk about retention, because training is all about retention, we're really getting that culture ready for the diversity we're trying to infuse into it, right? So I love that kind of how you ended there. I also thought Yellow Team, you did really good with different types of measurement. You have some qualitative and some quantitative. I think it's pretty tight. It could be a little tighter if you when you're actually writing them, but I think that you guys hit on some really great stuff. So you said be part of the committee, and I want you to talk about it, right? So then that helps others get involved in kind of learning what's going on. And then help us have conversations after you've been trained. Again, getting them the resources, because sometimes, and you'll find, maybe that is a strategic move. You have a culture that maybe there is some sort of mistrust between management and staff. And maybe you have a staff member that can be more of a leader in this and kind of, shifts that paradigm of trust, and that creates the psychological safety. And so where you can be a participant, not the leader of the conversation, right? With all the parameters and rules around the conversation. So I think that that's a really interesting kind of take on it. So good job, Yellow Room. Let's move to Blue Room 5. Blue Room.
I think I can say it better than the previous two groups or Jen's summary just now, but we similarly thought about the influencer style of this employee and our desire to support their self-identified goal, and also thinking about baby steps in light of this broader workplace culture challenge in the department that really demands manager attention as well. So we decided to write a goal about the employee serving kind of a role of informational and communication liaison between the committee and what that committee is doing, and sharing that with the team. So as a colleague and a rapport builder, as a way to build knowledge among the department. So similarly, not wanting to put too much load on the individual contributor, but thinking about those participatory developments of strategies as a way to gain buy-in, and the importance of incorporating voices from individuals into our agency strategies.
Yep, perfect. This one looks great. It's similar to what we said before. Elisa explained it in a very good way. And again, this is the point, right? It's that cascade. So you as the manager know you kind of have a work culture problem. So how is it that you are going to use this individual who has an interest and is an influencer in how to build that strategy to improve work culture, right? And so I think Blue Team, you did an excellent job here in those strategies. Good job. All right, our last room, gray, room 7.
2-minute warning, by the way, Jen.
Yeah, Jordan's going to go ahead and post the information to close out, and I have a last slide with the QR code. We will finish on time. So room 7.
Hey, this is Jennifer. We looked at the fact pattern and we saw some things we wanted to deal with quickly. The EO incident, the incivility amongst the team. It's a large team, and we have an ally in this I individual who wants to have an interest in being an informal leader in the DEI culture. So we thought we would have this individual work with the team leader to plan and execute quarterly team mix trainings towards civility, and perhaps the manager provide broad topic with basis and potential EO stress points, because we know that is something that is confidential. Our measurement would be to complete 1 a quarter and recruit at least 2 additional team members to assist with topic planning. One of the topics that was mentioned right off the bat was microaggression training, perhaps. So this individual could use and leverage their DEI membership to find a speaker, or perhaps find some activity through that committee. And the relevance is to build familiarity of the peers and include as many team members as possible to define those topics, break down barriers and open lines of communication in a safe space for the team, and let's pull them back together.
I love that. And I love kind of the way you guys said, you know what, we're going to break down that barrier between management and staff, and we're going to collaborate on this. And this person is going to be our conduit to the others. So that's a very strategic kind of management tool, right? And so using them, I love the idea about where you're going here. You all did amazing job. So again, if you need more help with the actual writing, I'm loving the cascade. I think that you're grasping it, but our Office of Talent and Management team definitely can provide more resources there. You did an excellent job today in that group, and I hope you enjoyed working with one another. Let me get rid of this. Go away so I can get There we go. Get you that QR code. All right, we did the report out. All right, so thank you for participating today in class. Go ahead and scan that QR code, and Jordan, if he didn't already, is going to put the link, if you prefer that, in the chat. Don't forget to fill out an evaluation. Jordan, I think I'm doing your speech for you. Don't forget to fill out the evaluation. We love, this is a new class. This is only, I think, the 3rd time I've done it. So if you have suggestions on how we can improve, this is definitely something that we want more of our managers to take, because this is, you know, operationalizing equity. Love to hear your feedback. Jordan, I'll be quiet now and let you finish your job.
Thanks, Jen. I think you already covered most of the closing, but I just also wanted to thank everyone for attending. That QR code, scanning that should allow you to get credit for the class, but if that's not working for some reason, we have a code word that you can use to get credit as well. So the code word for today's class is bear, as in Winnie the Pooh, B-E-A-R. So you could email that code word to our email, which I dropped in chat, dei@das.ohio.gov, if for some reason that QR code isn't working out for you.
You have
Code
to put
word
it
is
in the form.
bear.
You have to put it in the form too, on the
In the
QR
form.
code. Yeah, it's in there
Okay.
too.
Thank you, Jen.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Your
you.
next class, I think, is at Jordan 10:30. Oh, we have the keynote session.
A keynote session begins at 10:30, runs till noon, and then
All
we'll
right.
have lunch.
And then we'll have lunch. All right. Thank you all. See you in another session. Bye.
Bye.